Before we get started, I'd just like to thank Bob's Steak and Chop House for providing this facility for us and the great hospitality they show. It's a pleasure to do this series with them every couple of weeks. I'd also like to introduce two of my team members today. At the far end, Patricia Fogarty, our editor, is with us. And to my right, Sean Gonzalez, our sales director. On other occasions, I've asked if we could go around the room and everyone introduce themselves, but today we will skip that part because this is a rather big crowd. We'll get straight. We're not too hot on introductions. I could spend a long time introducing Richard. Just briefly to say that he's our former mayor of McAllen and an important leader also in the Border Trade Alliance. I know I'm leaving a lot of things out, Richard, but we can talk about your experience through this next hour. I'd like to get down to the questions and start with, you and I had a very brief conversation on election night when you convincingly won election for county judge, and I asked you what were the important things you heard from the voters on the campaign trail. You mentioned lower taxes, mobility, drainage, and jobs. Those are the four things that the voters said to you were important. That being said, can we run through those four and tell us what you plan to do, hope to do when you get sworn in early next year as a new county judge for Hidalgo County? Maybe we start with taxes.
Well, hold on just a minute, Steve. Let me answer the way I want to, okay? I have to take a leadership position already, okay? Because that's what a county judge does. You provide leadership. I have big shoes to fill. Obviously, we've had very good government in the past. He started with $750,000 in the fund balance, and right now it's over $32 million, that's good news. That's good management. Hidalgo County is one of the fastest growing counties in Texas. We expect that after this census, we're going to be over 1 million people, which more or less will get us about the 7th largest county in Texas. What does that mean? It means that it puts a lot of pressure on us to keep up with that growth. We need more sheriff's deputies, we need a bigger jail, we need a bigger courthouse, we need more mobility, we need all these things. I'm going to start with over $360 million of new debt for the new courthouse and for the drainage. That's a lot of debt. When one third of your citizens are poor, below the poverty line in earnings, that's put pressure on the other 2/3. That's why we have one of the highest tax rates of any county in Texas, because we have that situation. Also, we have 22 cities in Hidalgo County. We need all cities to prosper. We don't need 1 or 2 cities to prosper. We need all cities to prosper. We have to start thinking like a metropolitan area that we are, okay? If you go to El Paso, you have El Paso. You go to Laredo, you have Laredo. You go to Del Rio, you have Del Rio. You come to the Valley, you have 22 cities, only Hidalgo County, okay? We need to start competing with one another and help one another. So when Steve's asked me the questions, what are you gonna do about all those matters? Okay, well, here's my response. Obviously, we need more money to do all the things that we need. Our job is to provide services, okay? Well, I want to provide services at the lowest cost to the taxpayer by being efficient and effective in providing those services, okay? That's not going to happen by wishing for it. It's going to happen by being very structured and having a buy-in. I'm a Texas Longhorn fan. Okay.
Welcome.
And I like Aggies too, by the way, and all the other schools. But you know, the coach said something very important the other day. He says, "I want my team to be together, to buy in to the process that I'm going to give them to be successful." My big challenge first is to get your confidence. Okay. And how do I get your confidence to move forward? Well, I have to make good decisions. Well, I'm not that smart, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm going to be looking for a lot of help. I'm going to be looking for the talent that we have here that is underutilized. Because if we're going to be successful, our success is not going to depend on me. It's gonna depend on us, what we do together. If we get 22 cities working together with our congressmen, our senators, our state legislators, we're gonna be able to accomplish great things. You can't solve budgetary problems by simply cutting expenses. You solve budgetary problems by growing your revenues. So how do we grow our revenues? Because now it's gonna go into the taxes, to the drainage, all that. Because you can't have money to do those things if you don't have an engine to produce that income. I'm gonna spend a lot of time in helping our community in economic development. Our future is gonna depend on how much investment we bring in to Hidalgo County. We can't wait for other people to do things for us. We have to do them ourselves. Mm-hmm. Today, consumers are looking for smart products, not cheap products. Okay? Housekeepers have smartphones. Okay, they're cheaper phones than a smartphone, but they want a smartphone. So we have to think as to what the future is going to be. I believe that based on the research that people have done, they're looking at robotics and automation. There's going to be $8 trillion invested in robotics and automation. Well, where is that investment going to happen? Well, what is it going to take for us to part of that investment come to the Rio Grande Valley? Well, what do we need? We need talent. We need capital. Okay? But we also need to connect an innovation, and we need to connect the talent, the capital, and innovation so we can be successful. Well, who's responsible? Steve, who's responsible? Is the county judge responsible? Or the city mayor is responsible? Well, who's responsible? Okay? So when you have a metropolitan area like we have, and we have so many governments, it's really difficult sometimes to find out, well, who's responsible. Okay? Well, you know what? I'm gonna volunteer. I want to volunteer and try to be a leader that puts a plan together to help us attract that capital here to the Rio Grande Valley. But we're going to need all the help. We're going to need UTRGV. We're going to need South Texas College. We're going to need the medical school. We're going to need all of you to help us together. We're going to need Senator Cortez to do his job. He's always been a friend, So I wanted to start there, and I apologize, Steve, for not answering your question.
We'll get around to it.
But I wanted to start there because I want all of you to know how important you are to the success of the Valley. Because one of the things that I want to do, and I don't know if anyone's here from the media, is we have to quit telling people how bad we are.
That's right.
We have to tell people how good we are. Mm-hmm. Okay? I want to tell you, among many things that I am, I know a little bit about statistics, and there's a little frequency chart. It's called the bell shape. You're familiar with the bell shape. Okay? If you chart frequencies of behavior in the Rio Grande Valley, you're going to have behavior in the far right, which is excellent behavior. You're going to have behavior on the far left, which is very bad behavior. But most of the time, you're going to have behavior in the middle. So if you wanted to be accurate in describing who we are to people, would you describe them on the far left, where we're very bad? Would you describe them on the far right, where we're very good? No. You describe us where we're in the middle, because that's where we are. And our job is to change that bell-shaped curve of frequency and skew it more to the right. More to the right, more to the better behavior, more to the better educated, more to the most skilled, more to the most productive. So who's responsible? You can't have things without leadership, because everything starts with leadership. Why is our country suffering today? We've had lack of leadership. What happens when you have lack of leadership, you have the people, American people, telling Congress what to do. Well, I want to tell you, there's only two types of opinions. There's a lay opinion and an expert opinion. When our citizens of America, well-intended as they are, give you an opinion, all right, class, this is your first test. Is it a lay opinion or an expert opinion? Lay. It's a lay opinion, okay? So when you go to a doctor, Is that an expert opinion or a lay opinion?
Expert.
So when you need medical services, you go to what? An expert. So why are we listening to lay people about what's good for our country? You know why we do that? Because there's been lack of leadership. Lack of leadership to show you when you're right and to show you when you're wrong. We can do this together in the Rio Grande Valley. Texas is going to look like the Rio Grande Valley. If you look at the demographics of Texas, in the last census, there were 4.2 million new Texans. 2.8 were Hispanic. That's 65%. Well, right now, 49% of all kids that are 5 years and younger are Hispanic. Texas, what does that tell you? That the future majority is going to be Hispanic. So if Austin is paying attention, who do you want your majority to be? Dumb or stupid or smart and educated? So if we don't invest in human capital, if we don't invest in what the majority of Texans are going to be and make them better at governing, show them to take pride in being ethical, being responsible, being productive. Let's make our taxpayer line grow faster than our welfare line.
That's right.
That's what we can do together. And I promise you that we will not lack leadership in this position. I may not be right, but I want to lead you somewhere, okay? I want to lead you some direction. And I ask for your support. And when you think I'm wrong, I have an open door. Tell me where you think I'm wrong. But don't come to me just when you think I'm wrong. Come to me with a solution.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Okay.
He's
Okay.
anxious to ask me a question.
Well, first of all, I did forget to say at the beginning that we do invite the audience to pitch in with some questions as well. I like to allow a third at least of the time for a Q&A at the end. So start thinking of the questions you'd like to ask the next county judge for Hidalgo County. But let's go back to what the voters told you on the campaign trail. You're not ignoring the voters. You've often said, you've already said it today, that you don't fix budgetary problems simply by cutting expenses. You try to grow revenue. You've mentioned that, but the voters did tell you that their taxes are too high. They don't want to pay more taxes. So what was your pledge through the campaign, and what's your pledge today as you try to grow this economy and bring investment in? What's the position on the taxes we already pay?
Well, that is a very good question, and the best way I can answer it is this. We have to start by fixing our own house. I can't tell people how to run their finances or whatever if my finances are in disarray. So one of the things that I'm going to do once I get there, hopefully we'll have a buy-in of everybody, is try to be efficient and effective in everything that we do and eliminate redundancy. Redundant expenses are not good because they're redundant. By definition, you don't need them. We have 4 commissioners that have 4 basically different teams, and I'm not questioning any of the commissioners and what they do, but I think it's important that we let science dictate action, because science is perfect. I mean, I can have subjective beliefs all day long and maybe be right, maybe be wrong. But if I have objective beliefs based on facts, then I'm always going to be right. So if I have a choice to be subjective or a choice to be objective, all right, class, second question. Do we want to be subjective or objective? God, this is a good group. This is a really good group. Okay. So part of the analysis is evaluation of what you do. So if you're going to evaluate things, you're going to evaluate them subjectively or objectively. So I want to present those principles to the county so we can be better at the judgment that we take. So once we clean our own house and we ourselves lower all the costs that we can, that's going to give rise to additional revenues because we don't have to spend them in redundant expenses or unneeded expenses. Then the question then is, what do the citizens want? I know if I go to a grocery store and I want to buy everything I want, I have to pay for everything I want. Okay? So it's going to be up to you all to decide. I have to prove to you that I'm going to do it at the best price to you, but you're going to have to tell me whether you want it or not. Okay, Is that fair?
Thank you for that. And like you said before, on the campaign trail, drainage was important. Although the voters said to you they don't like increased taxes, they did say yes to a bond issue to improve drainage. You're not in office yet, but what have you learned about the county's program to improve drainage, which is a prerequisite for attracting new investment? Where do things stand now on
Well,
the drainage issue?
Steve, of course, that's another good question. The Rio Grande Valley is a delta, and we have a huge, drainage problems. And if you want to fix them, all we need is $2 billion, okay? And that'll get them fixed. Unfortunately, we don't have $2 billion. The taxpayers did give us 190 million, so that's a good start. But I think instead of, and today I was interviewed, we're spending millions, if not billions of dollars on a border wall, okay? Because the federal government thinks that that's the best use of that money. Well, I can tell you, I don't know any wall that's gonna keep desperate people from coming. That was proved to you in Germany, when the Eastern Germans wanted to get out, and it's proved to you all over the place. So I'm hoping that our federal government will pay more attention to the best use of their money and help us. If Houston is a beneficiary of federal funds because they had that hurricane, that disaster over there, well, we did too. It just wasn't a hurricane, but we had the same consequences. So I think part of what we need to do as a metropolitan area is be better at advocacy. And in order for us to be better at advocacy, we need to be better going out and voting, okay? I'm very proud to say that I received over 100,000 votes in Hidalgo County, so I was very proud of that. But you know what? 200,000 would have been better, okay? So when you have 360,000 eligible voters, and you only get 1/3 of that, that's not helping on our advocacy.
The voters also mentioned to you mobility, and you did say that our street, we're growing very fast as a community, and the streets are getting busier all the time. Your plans, the Commissioner's plans to improve mobility in the county?
Another very good question. Well, one of the things that is ongoing right now is trying to merge the MPOs of Hidalgo and Cameron and Willacy County. That's going to make us one of the largest MPOs in the state of Texas, and therefore, right now, the way the money is divided is you have the power MPOs that are getting about 85% of the money, then the rest of us are getting 15% of the money. So I'm going to let you all make an objective decision here, okay? If by merging the MPOs of Hidalgo County, Willacy County, and Cameron County, then we move into the majority where they get 85% of the money. Does that sound like something we want to do?
Yes.
Man, this is a smart crowd. Okay, well, when that happens, then we have more money. To put into mobility. The question is, because I go back again, we're a large metropolitan area. We have many governmental jurisdictions. So, who calls the shots? Well, when I was in the meeting, I wasn't sure that I had all the facts. So they asked me questions, and I said, I don't have a lot of experience in what you all are doing, but I have a lot of experience being fair. So if we're going to have an agreement that's going to work and be long lasting, it's got to be an agreement that is fair and equitable. So if you want to talk to me about what should be in an agreement, well, talk to me about what you think is fair and equitable. Is it fair and equitable we divide the money between Hidalgo County and Cameron County 2-to-1 because we're $1 million, they're $500,000? I don't know. Do we divide the money based on how many miles of highway we have in Cameron County versus Hidalgo County? I don't know. Do we divide it on the basis of how many cars are in Hidalgo County versus Cameron County? I don't know. But until we decide what is fair and equitable, then we'll never have an agreement that will be long lasting. So I hope that when I get to the bargaining table, that's the type of negotiation we're going to have, so we can have more money for everybody.
Well, could you see a situation where that mobility can include a light rail service, which we talked about here before, from, say, McAllen or Mission down to Brownsville?
Well, I'm a big fan of light rail, because, you know, trucks on the road, ruin highways, kill people, and they're very costly. So any time that you can get people out roads and use rail would be good. I would certainly be for to determine whether that is a feasible thing for us to do. The problem that we have here is that we don't have any transportation. So if I want to go from Brownsville to McAllen, light rail can bring me from Brownsville to McAllen, but what do I do once I get to McAllen? I mean, I have to have a bus system and transportation system. So that's a more complicated issue, but I hope that all the people in that business can figure it out.
Well, there's a prerequisite before you get to light rail. You've got to have, like you're suggesting there, a very robust bus service. And one of the top issues for State Representative Mondo Martinez and the Lower Rio Grande Valley Development Council is more funding for the bus system, working more closely in McAllen, Brownsville, South Padre Island with the bus system that runs in between there. That's one of their top legislative items. Is it on Hidalgo County's legislative agenda for this session starting in January?
Absolutely, absolutely. And those are long-term, you know, projects, but they have to start somewhere, and I certainly will be paying attention to it.
Okay, final question with regard to what the voters were telling you during the campaign, and you want to obviously listen to those, the electorate. The final subject was jobs. You addressed that to somewhat with your push for extra investment here, but what do you see? Where do you see the jobs of the future for a region like ours with its education attainment level?
Well, as county judge, I'm gonna have an important role to play in our workforce development, and we need to train for two positions. One, a position for today and a position for tomorrow. You know, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? If you have a manufacturer who wants to manufacture, let's say, robots or whatever, why would they want to come here? Well, they need to have the educated workforce. If we provide that educated workforce, you know, maybe they'll come over here. So who's going to make that investment? Who is going to make that investment knowing that it may take 5 years, 6 years, 10 years to recover your investment? Okay? That's why one of the things that we must look at and be better off, and I know that we have some economic development people here, there's opportunity zones that Texas just came up with, well, the IRS came up with this opportunity zones. And Hidalgo County happens to be one of those. And what that does is that helps an investor, a certain investor, to come in, make an investment, have a capital gain, and really defer it for a long period of time. I don't know if that in itself is going to bring in capital over here, but if somebody doesn't have a unified plan to do that, then we're not going to get it. One of the things that I want to discern, analyze, and see what we can do is how can we consolidate all this economic development people that we have in the Rio Grande Valley working together. Instead of competing with one another, why don't we talk about regional assets that will help everybody, no matter where they are. I can tell you that when I get up in the morning and I travel either east, west, north, or south, cars are going in every direction, okay? So we have city jurisdictions, but the people don't know that. I mean, we live here in the Rio Grande Valley. But job creation is going to be very important. I'm going to tell you that we have a weak economy. Our jobs are concentrated in 3 areas. Government, you know, people who work for school districts, the federal government, universities, things of this nature. Retail and healthcare. Well, retail is in trouble. Hopefully it will be temporary trouble because of the internet. A lot of people are now buying the internet, which doesn't give rise to retail jobs. Government is having problems. You know, almost every government here in the Rio Grande Valley wants to sell bonds and raise more money to do something. So jobs for the government are also going to be in a tight position because we're just not going to simply be able to continue to grow more employment in government because we simply don't have the money. So where are the jobs of the future? Well, that's the $64,000 question. if I had the answer to that question today, I wouldn't be here. I would be a rich guy somewhere in some island, somewhere. But these are some of the problems that we have to work out together. To me, I'm looking at GTRGE to help us with their intellectual abilities and powers and research things. I'm looking for everybody to help. Talent is very important to our success, so we have to be able to utilize everything, every source of information that we have to find answers to those things. If you're looking for me to find all the answers to all the problems, then we're going to fail.
On that subject, one of the top issues for the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas for this region is addressing the issue of the digital divide. We hope to have a show on that specific subject soon with Jordana Barton. She sort of provisionally said yes to that. Is that part of your prescription when you notice the big difference between our major cities and the rural areas and the colonias? It is an economic development issue. Can that be a top issue for the county?
Well, it is, and I have good news. I have good news for you because we have some Canadian people here that are trying to connect the Rio Grande Valley, because the healthcare of the future, a lot of diagnostics for the future are going to be through video, through technology. So you can have an examination here in the Rio Grande Valley and have somebody in Canada or in Europe really examine you. So in order for them to take advantage of that, they need to be connected. So one of the things that I asked them is, well, are you going to help me connect all the rural areas? I says, well, that's one of the things that we want to do here in the Rio Grande Valley. So I think that it's going to happen. It's going to happen because industry or business is going to need that. So I think that's a huge advantage for us. So I believe that's going to happen quicker than what you think.
Let's move on to this region's image with the rest of the country, the rest of the world. You mentioned a moment ago the border wall, and to many business partners for this region in Mexico, that border wall is not a very good image. It doesn't portray a good image for this region, but it's the policy, one of the top policy issues of our president. It was during the campaign, his election campaign, and related to the border wall, many would say, is this migrant caravan issue. Many people feel that our region dodged a bullet when those on the caravan decided to go to Baja California rather than Tamaulipas. What role does the county have, do you have as the leader of the county, in expressing a view to the federal government? All of those issues, the border wall, immigration is a federal issue, but at what extent does a county judge get involved in that discussion, if at all, and what message do you plan to take to Washington, specifically about immigration, border security?
Well, thank you for asking that question. I was very fortunate that Governor Abbott was here, I believe, 4 weeks ago, and he met with 5 small city mayors from Sullivan City, La Jolla, Palmview, and Penitas, okay? And I wanted him to meet those mayors because it's rare that you have mayors like that have an opportunity to meet with the governor. And I thought it was important for the governor, because he is the governor of all Texas, not just some Texans, but all Texans, for him to have an opportunity and for them to have an opportunity to have a dialogue. And it was amazing that a lot of the conversation went into the border security and stuff like that. And I'll give you some conversations. He says, well, we have the blimp over there, and the blimp does a very good job. When there's a high wind, we bring it down, and when we bring it down, then the people cross. Okay, so since they live here, they said, look, if you have a boat that's constantly patrolling the river, you have a natural barrier. And if you have a boat that's coming over there, then, I mean, they're never going to get across. And the governor said, is it that simple? I said, yes. Okay. So I think as I go back to my first comments to you, if you let science, if you let facts dictate your action, you're gonna be more accurate. And I think that when we can bring reliable evidence to the decision makers, then how can you argue with a fact? I think the dictionary defines it, it's a known truth, okay? So my involvement with it is to help, our Senator Cornyn, our congressional people with the right reliable facts, so hopefully decision makers will make decisions based on that and not subjective belief.
We have a new president being sworn into office December 1st, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. One of his top issues for our border region is an economic zone where he's proposing to lower the taxes for border residents on the other side of the river. Have you had a chance to see, to evaluate the potential impact of that? What could it mean for the Rio Grande Valley? This new economic development zone where he's basically saying we want more movement of people, goods, capital, with lower taxes.
Okay. Well, we have some ladies here from Reynosa, our neighboring city. Maybe they can answer the question. I hope it's good. And anytime you lower taxes, you put more money in consumers' hands, to spend. One of the problems that we're having here is that we're losing customers. We're losing customers because they had their visas. And quite honestly, there was a lot of abuse in the visas. You had a 3-day visa to come here and be a tourist, and they would overextend their visits, or that causes problems, stuff like that. But downtown McAllen was the mecca for shoppers from Mexico that would come in and buy goods and products. And right now, the problem that we're having is many of them are losing their visas. So it's not only going to be an economic challenge to put money in Mexicans that may want to come here and shop over here, but to be able to give them the right to cross and be in the United States. So that's another big problem that we have here on the border.
So you'll be taking that issue to Washington?
Well, absolutely. Again, I have my hands full with the county, but to the extent that we can help our federal people, identify, issues and problems and give them good, reliable information, then I sort of want to help there. There's a lot of misinformation out there. I speak to the federal people, and sometimes the bad guy comes with a baby, okay? And you take the baby away from the bad guy, and we get alarmed because, wait a minute, how are you separating, babies from the bad guy? Well, he's a bad guy, he's not really the parent. So a lot of Americans don't know that. And does it happen all the time? No, but it happens sometimes. So it's a difficult job that they do, and I think that I, for one, want to help them, do it as best as they can.
We'll just have 2 more questions from the podium here, and then we'll open it up for a Q&A. The next one is the census, which you've already mentioned. It was a top issue for our current county judge, Ramon Garcia, a very big issue. He's got those complete count committees working, and they've been winning applause and plaudits for Hidalgo County getting involved so early. Will you continue that emphasis and to ensure that everyone is counted, and thereby the valley will get extra congressional money?
Absolutely. I've made a couple of meetings, and I asked the question. I said, well, what did we learn from the last census? And there was silence. We didn't learn anything from the last census.
Who was who you were talking to?
It's not important. Okay. The problem that we had the last time was that a lot of people that we didn't know, the people in the colonias, people didn't know, were coming knocking on the door. Well, if you don't know somebody, you've never seen him, he's not from here. So what do? They don't open the door. So I think those are lessons to be learned, and I hope that we did learn them, and I hope we're going to do a better job, because it is extremely important that we count ourselves, and I think it takes education, and I want to tell you that there is a network of information out there. When the highway patrol will come in here putting roadblocks, I mean, I think there was about a 30% drop in school enrollment, okay, because students, didn't, and parents didn't take their kids to school. Well, how did they know that that was happening? Well, there is a network among those people that they call and they find out. So we need to use that network and to tell them that this census is not going to have any impediment to their status here, so we can get them counted because they are here.
And your advice, what would your advice be to the residents if that citizenship question?
Well,
Is it still there?
Well, I met with, I think there's 8 nonprofit organizations here, and they're well connected to those people, and I think we need to use them. I think we need to use them for that purpose. When I visited with them, also, they're always asking me for things. I said, well, who do I go to complain about all the litter and trash they're putting in our canals? Okay, you're putting tires and all sofas and things like that in our drainage canals, and the water can't flow. I said, who do I go complain about that? And I said, well, what you see? I said, hey, we live here together. It's a two-way street. I've got to do things for you, but you've got to do things for me too.
Okay, and the final question is, we have the legislative session starting up in January. Can you run through briefly the top issues the county has identified that it wants to either support or kill during the session? And I'm thinking there of the unfunded mandates that sitting county leaders always complain about.
Well, yes, we have a lot of unfunded mandates that they keep telling us to provide the services, but doesn't send us any money. I'm going to withhold any comments on that, Steve, right now. Quite honestly, we're in a competitive